So today, I want to talk about something I realized, like, I don't know, probably 3 years ago or so now. I'm getting fucking old. I say that, but I'm 24. People might get mad at me, but I feel like it's going by quickly, or most of it did. Anyways, about 3 years ago, started having trouble sleeping. Most of my life before that, I literally would just, I loved it. It was so easy. I would, every single night, as far as I can remember, I would lay my head in bed, be like, alright, it's time, do the thing. And then I'd wake up. Just fucking sweet. Just like that. And I would be known, all my buddies would always tell me, like, dude, you just fall asleep so fucking quickly, it's insane. Whole family would always talk about it. I never understood. Like, I was just like, what do you mean? Why don't you just go to sleep? This is so easy. Yeah, and about like 3 years ago or so, I did my normal thing where I laid down and I'd be like, alright, time to do the thing. Go to sleep. And I didn't. And there was nothing different about the day. You know, I remember thinking, like, okay, did I switch something up? Am I doing something differently? My diet was pretty shit, but it was just been shit my whole life, so it's just like, it can't be that. I didn't stay up later than normal, you know? I usually stayed up pretty late back then all the time anyway. And yeah, I started having this problem where, like, I would just kind of stay awake for at least, like, 2-3 more hours after I lay down. And it caught up to me. I started getting super, super exhausted, all that stuff. But something that I started thinking about because of just laying there, I would just, just thinking of usually the day of, usually complaining about, the things I was annoyed about that day, or there's something somebody did or said, or something I did or said that I'm like, fucking more shit to stress about. And I got to this point where I was just like noticing more about the voice inside my head. And it was weird because I'm just like, like after anybody that's had trouble sleeping, gets to that point where they're just like, this is fucking annoying. Like, it just doesn't shut up. It just, it talks about the day, it talks about what's going on tomorrow, what you're worried about in the future, and talks about useless things like what's going on in the room, and just it goes and goes and goes. And I started feeling this, like, separation. It was super weird. It was uncomfortable. It would make me feel like almost like sick to my stomach the more I thought about it at the beginning. And what I was generally thinking of, like, was, what that voice is. Nobody really talks about it. I mean, probably now more than ever that I've realized, maybe just as soon as I started becoming aware of the voice itself, I started talking about it more, and then it started getting more in conversation. And I guess, like, talking to people or looking it up more, I see it all the time now. But it literally felt like a tear that was making me uncomfortable. After having trouble sleeping, thinking about what the voice actually is, what? I started feeling like this tear between me, person talking, and then the person that's just going, or the thing that's just talking in my head. It unsettling. It was weird. Anything like new, unknown like that, and then when you look it up, you can't identify it so easily. You can't just explain it in one quick conversation. And fuck, man, that was exhausting. It was definitely exhausting just looking it up, trying to talk to more people about it. And it was funny, whenever I would talk to people about it too, almost the same exact reaction back then. Every single time I brought it up, or rather the first time I brought it up, I would always get the same exact expression. And I usually hit it up like in a very like random, because how do you lead into a conversation about that, right? Like just be like, hey, have you ever noticed like that voice in your head? And a lot of times like it'd just be a weird like what the fuck? What was this guy talking to me about? And then after a second they're like, yeah, like mine never shuts up. I'm like, same. What the fuck is this? Like, everybody just deals with this shit. It's annoying. And I come to find out, like, not everybody actually deals with it. There's like a select few people that I don't know. I don't remember what they told me it was called, but some people actually don't even have anything in their head. They just completely clear. It's just, that seems very interesting. I want to look more into that, actually, thinking about it now. But since we're on the topic, so when I started, really thinking more about it, I noticed that like majority of the time it was negative. It was either complaining or judging or just pointless. And with that like realization that like most of the time it's negative, most of the time it's a burden. It like weighs you down, because then it's like you're trying to do stuff, you're trying to have a normal conversation, and then it's just like, it was like as if like as soon as I became aware of it, it started having, the volume was just increased. It just went skyrocketed. So like in mid-conversation, while I'm just doing shit at work or whatever it was at the time, it would be like louder. It'd be more fucking annoying. And it was almost like it was driving me crazy. Like, and you get to that point where like, you don't align with the only thing that you have with yourself when you're alone, and it's just like, you don't align with it. It's, it's like your cord is just tearing apart. Like, you don't even, what is reality at that point? Yeah. What a gross feeling it was. And there was a point, as that pretty much led me into the start of like meditation and, yoga, and then actually taking care of myself and stuff, because I was, started asking the questions like, why is it so negative? I mean, it can't be negative for everybody all the time, especially for, you just look at happy people. You just look at people that are generally happy. I guarantee they got times where, that voice does, that negative bar and that voice just kind of does exceed more than the positivity. But I'm like, why is mine majority of the time negative? It's not fucking fair. I was like, what? And, so I ended up diving into personal development more, really because of that. I couldn't sleep. It was, when you lack sleep, when you have bad sleep, it weighs you down in so many ways that you don't even realize. Really, really. Like, you just start gaining more bad habits, like subconsciously, because of the lack of quality or lack of sleep. And this is the point where, like, I really started to. I mean, I didn't fucking like go full nearly as much as I'd like to have, but where I started taking care of myself, I started paying attention more to what's in front of me. What am I consuming? What am I dealing with that's toxic, that I would be way better without? Stuff like that. And it's been a ride. Like, I remember probably a year or so after, I had trouble sleeping, I started thinking like, oh, like this thing could be like super useful. I'm like, I feel like it's thinking things for a reason. Like, and whether being religious or not about it, like just the idea that like, okay, there's got to be a plan, and I'm hearing these thoughts for a reason, right? And I remember I started, like diving into that thought, like diving into the idea that like, all right, whatever I think, that's just what I'm gonna do. Whatever I think, that's just what I'm gonna say. And people, I realized because people started not wanting to be around me as much. And in that, like that's been a problem for me my whole life, pretty much. Or, well, thankfully not anymore. But for a majority of my life, that was definitely a big problem where I would be, that feeling of loneliness I wasn't able to deal with very much. So during this point in my life where, people started not wanting to be around me as much, or I think it was like me almost manifesting it because I started not wanting to be around myself. It put me, in a low point. I was just like, man, everything I talk about is a complaint. Everything that I think and everything that I say and everything that I do is coming from this like negative place, this like negative source of just gross. I can't even think of the words to really explain it. It's just uncomfortable. And when you don't want to be around yourself, how do you expect anybody else to want to be around you? And I think the reason that this, like it wasn't just, it sounds stupid when I talk about it, but like during the time I was trying to figure it out, of course, like we all still constantly are. But I was trying to figure out why, like, I think it was the term that I heard. It's like, say what's on your mind. Like, say what's on your mind. Like, that really stuck to me. So I was like, you know what, that's what I'm going to start doing. Because that seems to be what confident and happy people do, is they say what's on their mind. And I wanted to be a confident person. And, it drove me in the complete opposite direction. I actually lost all the confidence that I even had because I started doing this. What I started doing generally was starting to align myself with the voice in my head. But I didn't realize, I didn't have the same understanding as I do now. That voice was like at a negative point. When you align yourself with something that's negative, you can. It's the source of it, the foundation it's built on was trauma, past negative experiences that you haven't exactly let go or dealt with. And that was the source of the voice in my head. It was just a series of memories and experiences that were built on problems. And I had to get to a really, really low point to come to this realization that, like, I have to, what do I do to fix my thoughts then? Like what? Like, okay, like, not everyone's thought patterns, not everyone's, that voice in their head has that same problem. Like, what do I do to fix it? And a big thing for me was always confidence. I've always admired confident people. Like that's something that I always wanted, I needed in me. I was like, no, like, if I don't have a source of confidence, then I feel like I'm not a person. And it really like got to a point where, when people didn't want to be around me, I didn't want to be around myself, I had to come to a complete almost reset. And something that really, really stuck with me was a quote that I wish I could remember who, but I do remember the quote. It just really stuck with me. And it was, "Your mind is a terrible master, but the greatest servant." And when you're just figuring out that you have a voice inside your head and, like, you know, you're just trying to figure it all out, like what the fuck it is and stuff, it's wild, you know. And hearing that, I was like, whew, fuck, but, you know, it sounds kind of right. It settles well in me, and it did at the time, and thank goodness it did, because it changed me. It changed my life, because I started realizing that I don't have to align with everything that's going on in my head. I can pick and choose, because I'm my own person. This thing that's constantly going and going and going inside your head. You have the power to overcome anything it fucking says, even if it's loud, even if it's not obnoxious, even if it's consistent in its negativity. You can fucking say, fuck you. This doesn't serve me whatsoever. It's not of value in any way to me. It's not going to better my life or better my mood. So why would I pay attention to it? And it settles well with, like, with the idea of working out is such a popular one. When you start getting, going, a lot of people, if they're experiencing diving into personal development, trying to take care of themselves, or trying to better themselves in different ways to be happier or be more confident, or whatever you want to call it, what'll happen is, like, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week. Once a day, every single day, I'm going to go to the gym. At this time in the morning, it's perfect time for me. It works out for me. It's not, not too many barriers, and it's not like an out of schedule thing. Like, I usually wake up at this time. I have a little gap period. And I'm going to do this every single day. And then usually what'll happen most often to most people, you'll go 2-3 days. Something will come up, something will happen, and then you'll miss the fourth, and then you'll get so discouraged that you won't keep going. And if you really think about it, when I think about it in my own experience, in that third, fourth day, the day that something came up and I missed it, and then the following day, I wake up at that time, and I'm like, oh, like, this is it. That fucking voice, it's like, it jumps at the opportunity. It's like, ooh, like, you don't want to do this. You're exhausted. You stayed up so late last night. This happened. You need yourself a break. You could just lay your head back down, or you could just play some video games, or you could just, not. How much fun does just not going to the gym sound? Right there, I realized, and oh my God, when I realized this, that after hearing the quote, "Your mind is a terrible master, but the greatest servant," I realized then, no, fuck that. Fuck you, whatever this is. I'm gonna go to the gym. I don't feel like it. I'd way rather do anything else, but I committed it to, I'm gonna do my best to stick to my word. I already fucked up and didn't do 7 days, so let's just do 6. Go. When I passed that threshold, I'm telling, oh my gosh, like, when I went, yeah, I didn't get nearly as good of a workout as the first 3 days. I feel like I didn't, actually put enough energy into it. There's all these other things, but I went. I came back, and I had, every single time I do this, I have, like, one of the best days ever. It's because you, like, conquered it. Because you are in control all the time. And a lot of times I feel like a lot, that I start losing grip. And you fall into the trap, but the idea is to begin again. Just do it again. Because that feeling is just too good to say you're going to do something, especially for yourself, and you follow through and do it, you break through in this sense of capability. And when you can stick to your word for yourself, when you tell yourself you're going to do something, I'm going to do the dishes in an hour. And then an hour passes, 2 hours passes, 3 hours, and you still haven't done the dishes. You get that, heaviness. You're just like, and then you go to sleep and you wake up and the dishes still aren't done. And you're like, what am I doing? It's just the fucking dishes. It can be as small as that. And I realized, small steps to conquer this thing that's in our heads, that's in most of our heads, it does wonders. The feeling of relief of the heaviness that you feel from not sticking to your word for yourself, that relief, it is immense. It doesn't make any sense. It's not supposed to be this good just to follow through with such small things. And a lot of times, one of my secrets in doing that is just doing it right away. Don't even give yourself the time to think yourself out of it. Now it's like, if I want to work out, what's a 10-minute workout right now, right here, no ifs, ands, or buts? Oh, I got this going on, I got to do this, I got to do this. But in reality, you're going to sit on your phone for 10, 20, 30 minutes anyway. Just put a YouTube video on and just go do that workout. You're going to feel, bam. Especially, it's like I test myself sometimes. In this little, window, I'm at the point now where I'm almost like a fiend for it. It's like a drug to be able to stick to my word. When I tell myself I want to go, or whatever, I want to go for a run, I'll wait 5 minutes and almost sit with the idea. I'll start scrolling mindlessly on my phone or something for a minute, and then I realize that the thought's you don't really want to go for that run. It's so hot outside today. You could just go later tomorrow. Then I catch it right there, and I get up and just go. And then it's like, oh man, I don't know. It could be a complete placebo thing. I'm just thinking this confidence, and I'm faking it or whatever. I get it. I get this set source of power, of small confidence boosts, and it carries with me throughout most of the day, if not all the day. It's magical. It really is. And when you start conquering, I like conquering because I just feel dude, you should never belittle anybody or, feel powerful over anybody else except yourself. That's a little bit of a conundrum, but it's awesome. It is. And then when you start being, a man of your word to yourself, you have now the confidence and the capability of giving it to others. Because I've been that person in the past, and that's not a good person to be, because no one wants to be around you when you tell them you're going to do something and you don't follow through. Even if it's small stuff. Because the small stuff will stack up, though that number will get high. And the people around you that did want to be around you all the time at one point will soon not. Not because it's coming from a negative place, but because they just, everyone's been told by somebody that they're going to follow through or do something, and then they don't. That's a shitty feeling. So if you wouldn't want to be around another person like that, why would you want to be that, why would you want to be anywhere near yourself? And you really start just that's very small, minuscule things. Those small steps to conquer that voice inside your head. Because I'm telling you, my sleep is great. It is so much better. I can go to sleep. Or when I do see... There's a bunch of little tools and little tips and stuff that you can do to just shut it up now. minuscule the volume. That volume, instead of being so high now, it's so low and so minuscule that you laugh at it. It's a feeling that I wish that everybody would at least attempt at experiencing, because it saved me. It saved me so many different times, and there's so many times where you fall and you stay down for a moment. It's so much fun building back up, man. Every fucking time, because each and every time you're a better person than you were before, and you leveled up. What the fuck? Thank you for listening to my rant. I don't know how long this thing's gonna be. This was just something that I want to do way more often. Whenever I have the time to, I'm going to. I'm gonna start doing a podcast, separating this video. I'm gonna start uploading these videos straight to YouTube with no editing, because I'm not stressing about any of that. Don't feel like doing that yet. But if you enjoyed this video, like it, subscribe. I should be doing a little bit more. Starting a podcast, like I said. I'm going to be putting it into the link in the description. And I appreciate any support. Have a great day, guys. And just one more time, because that quote really, really stuck to me, and maybe it'll align with some of you, any of you. But it is, your mind is a terrible master, but the greatest servant. Thank you, guys.